Imotekh did not awaken from the great sleep as the pharaoh of the Zahndrekh dynasty. However, compelled by circumstance and single-minded determination to reclaim the glorious Necron empire of old, he took upon himself that mantle and has borne it with confidence and skill ever since. Few who face the Storm Lord survive, and those who do are forever changed. When Imotekh awoke from the great sleep, it was to a world gripped by madness and petty ambition. He was soon to discover that even his revivification had not occurred in the name of galactic conquest, but to further the agenda of one amongst Mandragora's warring rulers. Their former pharaoh had fallen to the ravages of the eons. The more ambitious amongst his royal court had wasted no time in beginning a grinding civil war for the vacant throne. In the hopes of breaking the deadlock, one pretender had ordered the famed Nemesaur Imotekh awakened. Surely this popular war leader would provide the edge required to see the war brought to a swift conclusion. This Imotekh did, though not perhaps in the way his awakener had imagined. Disgusted by the petty and short-sighted maneuvering of the warring nobles, Imotekh rallied an army of his own, and within a year had subjugated all other contenders for the throne. Imotekh became the undisputed pharaoh of the Zahndrekh dynasty, and with its considerable military resources now his to wield, he began a campaign of rapid expansion that has lasted ever since. Imotekh has consistently displayed a strategic acumen to best the galaxy's greatest war leaders. His strategies could be likened to intricate mechanisms whose wheels turn across interstellar gulfs and can encompass dozens of worlds and hundreds of armies at a time. To the more organic or superstitious of his enemies, Imotekh's incredible genius has the ring of prescience about it. How could he possibly put in place the multiple layers of contingencies that he does? How could he appear to simply know where his forces will meet victory or defeat, where the foe will commit reinforcements, and of what sort? How could he employ minute-perfect counter-maneuvers with precisely weighted forces? Often, all while coordinating an entirely separate battlefront entire star systems away. The truth lies not in dark sorcery, nor is it, as some hope, a product of inflated rumor and fear-mongering. Rather, Imotekh awoke from his great sleep possessed of statistical and hyperlogical strategic ability that would burn out the mind of a flesh and blood being. Absolute recall of every detail, intense cogitation, and logistic processing power, and the ability to perceive with absolute clarity the fractal web of future probabilities lie at the heart of what Imotekh does. He also grasps better than most of his race the psychology of the lesser races. This has earned for his practice of raising vast, dark energy storms that sweep before his armies and engulf those who do battle with him. Communication and coordination collapse beneath the shadow of the storm, and even those few panicked enemies allowed to flee beyond its bounds do so laced with blood-swarm nanoscarabs. These hideous constructs seethe within the bodies of their hosts, sending out a signal that draws the hideous flayed ones to them like hounds on a scent. Only anarchy and illogic can undermine Imotech's battle plans, and then only for a time. Not without reason does he revile the madness of chaos or the random aggression of the greenskins. This aside, Imotekh does have one other foe who can, on occasion, skew the incredible logic of his schemes: himself. Something within Imotekh cannot abide a rival, and he ever seeks to confront enemy generals in one-on-one honor duels. Those he defeats, Imotekh humbles, typically lopping off a hand as a reminder of his greatness before allowing them to withdraw. This strange compulsion is the reason that, as his conquests continue, Imotekh amasses an ever greater list of nemesises who seek his downfall. It may also be the cause of his disdain for the return of the Silent King. Imotekh sees himself as the great uniter of the Necron people, and he has no desire to be eclipsed by the very being whom he holds ultimately accountable for the plight of the Necron race. Trazyn the Infinite. As the archivist of the Solemnance galleries, Trazyn the Infinite's duty is one of preservation. Amidst the war-torn surrounds of the 41st millennium, however, even such a seemingly noble pursuit requires Machiavellian ways and no little flair for violence. Fortunately, for the tomb world of Solemnance, Trazyn possesses both qualities in abundance. Trazyn the Infinite goes into battle not simply to destroy, but also to collect, catalog, and preserve. True, he commands the legions of Solemnance with vicious cunning, but he would argue that he does this in service of goals loftier than military conquest. It is true, also, that his acquisitive drive knows no mercy, and that those who stand between Trazyn and his prize are struck down by blows from his empathic obliterator, a weapon that slays not only its immediate victim, but also all those nearby of a like mind and purpose. Yet Trazyn would assert that such measures are necessary, even merciful. He holds his mission to be of paramount importance, and in the time it would take to explain himself to the barbaric lesser races, countless priceless treasures would be forever lost to the flames. After all, to beings as enduring as the Necrons, most civilizations rise and dwindle again in the veritable blink of an eye. How does one explain such short-lived beings that their only meaningful contribution to the galaxy boils down to a handful of artifacts or individuals, or that they should willingly give these up instead of selfishly clutching to them. Yes, Trazyn the Infinite appears to his enemies a rapacious monster who attacks without warning or apparent cause, and leaves carnage and devastation in his wake. However, in his own mind, he is the most altruistic of his ancient race. The galleries of Solemnance are grand, almost beyond human imagining. The sunken chambers are crowded with artifacts of all forms, including the fabled Wraithbone Choir of Altanasar, the preserved head of Sebastian Thor, the ossified husk of an enslaver, and a giant of a man, clad in Baroque power armor, his face contorted in a permanent scream. Most magnificent of all Solemnance treasures are its prismatic galleries themselves, winding chambers of statuary that recapture events Trazyn deems worthy of preservation. The death of Lord Solar Macarius stands near to Doomrider's Folly, only chambers away from such wonders as the sword both stolen and sought, the last questions of Historicus Austin Varus, and the last stand of Uzarkar Creed. These scenes are not fabrications. Trazyn snatches true historical moments up wholesale, transmuting their inhabitants into hard light holograms that will forever stand testament to their deeds. It is Trazyn's greatest regret that nothing lasts forever. More often than he would like to admit, parts of his collection are destroyed by structural collapse, canoptic mishandling, or damage caused by hostile invaders. At such times, he is forced to pause in his works, assemble his legions, and strike out into the galaxy to harvest whatever replacements he requires. Trazyn is more concerned with spectacle than accuracy. He is more than happy to replace original participants in his dioramas with beings whose garb, alignment, or, in extremes, even species, are wildly historically inaccurate. Trazyn has fallen afoul of his own race more than once. His light-fingered proclivities are not reserved only for the worlds of the lesser races. He is forbidden to set foot upon Mandragora, is permitted onto Mobius only if his efforts will directly benefit the Necrons dynasty, and has been struck down by outraged enemies and politically motivated assassins many times. Trazyn is not known as the Infinite for nothing, however. He is cunning enough to work through countless surrogate bodies, leaping to a new lackey should his currently inhabited form be destroyed. In this way, he is rarely kept from his duties for long, while his enemies are left howling in frustration at the devious archivist's latest impossible escape. Illuminor Szeras. Illuminor Szeras is a merciless monster, a bioarchitect and hyper-technological vivisector who seeks to unpick the secrets of life itself. He puts his anatomical knowledge to use both on and off the battlefield, preying upon living specimens to better refine and enhance the Necron form. The Catan might have provided the knowledge for biotransference, but it was Szeras who made it reality. Even then, he saw it as the first of several steps on the path to ultimate evolution, a journey that would end as a creature not of flesh or metal, but as a god of pure energy. Until that day, Szeras is driven to take full advantage of and to labor constantly to improve upon the functionality of his android form. After all, no longer must he sleep, nor deal with 1,000 frailties and distractions of the flesh. Szeras labors to unravel the mysteries of life, for he fears that he would be a poor sort of god without such secrets at his fingertips. Szeras has been on the brink of understanding for many centuries, yet somehow, final comprehension always escapes him. Perhaps there are some concepts in the universe that do not reveal themselves before logic, be those matters of the soul or of the ineffable power of faith. Whatever the reason, such secrets will almost certainly lie forever beyond Szeras's comprehension. This is a truth he will never accept. However, a fact that has, of late, provided the Silent King with the leverage required to secure Szeras's allegiance. After all, if the Illuminor wrought biotransference, then surely he can reverse the process's effects, and perhaps in doing so, garner the final revelations that he has sought for so long. Szeras haunts the battlefields of the 41st millennium like a ghoul. He requires a constant flow of living subjects, and the most efficient way for him to acquire them is to trade his expertise in exchange for captives. Though Szeras is obsessed with the secrets of life, his aptitude for augmenting the weaponry and bodies of his fellow Necrons is peerless. Szeras's delving into the form and function of so many living creatures has taught him how to augment almost every facet of Necron machinery, a trait seen as distasteful by many of his peers. The dissection of Vucelin arachtoid compound eyes unlocked an improved array for targeting optics. The molecular disassembling of chitinous amble hide led the way to more efficient armor configurations, to name but two of many thousands of such advances. Szeras's own body and war gear are augmented with the most refined of his discoveries. His atomic energy manipulator allows him to deconstruct specimens in the heat of battle, while his studies of warp-sensitive active minds have given rise to his empiric overcharger, which can shock enemies' brains into sudden catastrophic psychic manifestation. It is a matter of some speculation how much involvement Szeras had in the design and implementation of the Pariah Nexus. But none can question that he is taking full advantage of its effects. Hundreds of thousands of stilled beings have already vanished into the Illuminor's horrific laboratories, and his harvest continues apace. Orikan the Diviner. The single eye of Orikan the Diviner pierces the veil of the present to reveal deeper secrets of time, space, and even fate itself. His astromantic powers allow him to inspect the skeins of fate with great clarity, and to direct events always towards whichever path will benefit him best. Yet, Orikan has other powers besides astromancy, powers that may yet make him a god. Long ago, in a time before the Necrons forfeited their souls in exchange for eternal forms of living metal, Orikan was a court astrologer to Zahndrekh himself. A skilled diviner even then, Orikan read the portents and offered what guidance he could to the court of the last silent king. It is said that he alone spoke out against trusting Mephitran, arguing against biotransference right up until it came to pass. Orikan has not forgotten that his warnings were ignored, and has not forgiven Zahndrekh for dismissing his concerns. Since he awoke within a cold body of living metal and realized that all he feared had come to pass, Orikan has offered true fealty to no master save himself. There is no other that he now trusts to accord his divinations the weight of respect that they deserve. This is perhaps an unfair judgment on Orikan's part, for he has revealed the true extent of his power to no other. The diviner himself is only too aware of his own abilities, however, and for years beyond count, he has employed them to further a personal agenda, terrifying in both scope and scale. It is true that Orikan reads the flow of the cosmos and the auras of the stars, and that with the wisdom he gleans, he predicts history's great events with unfailing skill. The Great Crusade, the Horus Heresy, the coming of the Tyranid Hive fleets, and the opening of the Great Rift. These and countless other dramas upon the grand galactic stage were revealed to Orikan long before they came to pass. With more focus, the diviner can even read the future of specific campaigns or individual heroes, predicting how events will transpire and selling his knowledge to whichever noble court will find him most valuable. Provided, of course, that they can pay Orikan's price. This is never anything so prosaic as coin or resources. The diviner seeks deeds, arcana, and gifts of promise, and he hoards his esoteric riches well. More than this, though, Orikan is also a chronomancer of prodigious skill and power. This is the talent he keeps hidden, his greatest secret and most potent weapon. Upon grasping some new revelation or spying an opportunity missed, Orikan embarks upon a journey down his own timeline in order to adjust events or provide himself with warning of what is to come. The diviner must, of course, be cautious. Even the smallest change in causality can have spiraling and unintended consequences. It speaks to Orikan's skill and cunning that his temporal interference has never been revealed, barring a few overly curious allies who soon met with horrible and entirely improbable twists of fate. Even without their knowing the full extent of his powers, most Necron nobles prize Orikan's service, if not his attitude, in their armies. The diviner is infamous for his insouciance and wiry mockery, which flies in the face of the Triarch's ancient codes and the most basic protocols of the royal courts. Most of Orikan's peers simply believe him to be louche and disrespectful, either because it is in his nature or due to some quirk of his revivification. A few canny souls suspect that the roots of this behavior lie in his last bitter exchanges with Zahndrekh before the Necron's fate was sealed. None, however, suspect the real truth. Orikan takes to the battlefields of the 41st millennium in furtherance of a subtle agenda centuries in the making. He manipulates those armies he fights alongside and ensures that his own goals are achieved, pruning and tweaking the galactic timeline as a master horticulturist tends his garden. Very soon now, Orikan believes, the stars will come into a final alignment. At that moment, the unfettered power of the cosmos will be his to command, and his temporal traps, woven carefully across the galaxy like the fault lines of an earthquake about to strike, will be triggered all at once. When that moment comes, it will be Orikan who becomes the master, and all will be forced to obey his commands. Zahndrekh Obyron. The title of Nemesaur is a weighty one. Those Necron who do don this mantle assume tremendous military responsibilities. Battlefield commander, high strategist, champion of the dynastic codes, envoy, exemplar, and protector of their dynasty. Though revivification left him quite mad, Nemesaur Zahndrekh still strives to embody all of these lofty goals. Zahndrekh is amongst the most famed of the Zahndrekh dynasty's Nemesaurs. He enjoys the personal favor of Imotekh the Stormlord. Under his rule, the fringe world of Gidrim has risen to prominence as a powerful core world and military hub. He is noble, principled, and as a commander, quite brilliant, not to mention loyally defended by his constant shadow, Zahndrekh Obyron. Sadly, Nemesor Zahndrekh is also afflicted with a delusional insanity so deeply ingrained there is no chance he will ever recover from it. The Nemesor perceives the galaxy about him as it once was, long before the horrors of biotransference. Zahndrekh believes himself and his followers to be flesh and blood beings. So convinced of this is he that the Nemesor still employs several dozen food tasters to watch for poison in the feast served up to, but never consumed by, his royal court. Moreover, to Zahndrekh, the enemies he fights are not rampaging orc hordes, elite space marine strike forces, or demon-worshipping cultists. In their place, Zahndrekh instead sees armed and armored Necrons, servants of rebellious dynasties, deluded or deceived by separatist demagogues, but Necrons nonetheless. As such, the old Nemesor accords every foe he faces the full extent of the dynastic honor codes. He shuns the use of death marks, flayed ones, or destroyers where at all possible, and offers his enemies every chance to surrender or retreat. Zahndrekh even insists that enemy commanders be captured rather than killed, and afforded every courtesy as respected Necrons leaders. For all this, Nemesor Zahndrekh is a sublimely skilled strategist and a masterful battlefield tactician. Still, this might not have been enough to save him from the ill-favored attention of his mutinous royal court, but that he is protected at all times by Zahndrekh Obyron. Having served as Zahndrekh's protector since the days of Flesh and Blood, Obyron is utterly and selflessly loyal to his master. It is Obyron who quietly puts down courtly rebellions on Gidrim, and who disposes of Zahndrekh's honored prisoners. He has been reprimanded by his rambling master more than once for the number of fatal accidents that seems to befall such captives. On the battlefield, the hulking Zahndrekh watches over his master with unblinking eyes. True, he is happy to storm into the enemy at the head of Zahndrekh's legions, where he can butcher the lesser races with savage abandon. But Obyron is always alert to Zahndrekh's position. Should any foe threaten the Nemesor's person, Obyron activates his Ghost Walk mantle and steps through reality to appear at Zahndrekh's side a heartbeat later. More times than he can count, the Zahndrekh has arrived in time to block an enemy's descending blade, typically eliciting a pleased chuckle from his master, along with bluff instructions to give the spirited attacker a fair fight. Anrakyr. Some see Anrakyr as the ultimate expression of Necron's stellar supremacy, an indefatigable warrior whose crusade for unity is nothing short of inspirational. Other Necron nobles see him as a rogue, an opportunist, and a privateer little better than the plundering vermin of the lesser races. Anrakyr cares not either way, so long as he is able to continue his quest. Anrakyr storms into battle with his war scythe swinging in vicious, decapitating arcs. Should a towering bastion or a mighty enemy bar his path, he merely raises his tachyon arrow, and with a thunderclap that could split a mountain in two, erases his target from existence. Should the foe send war engines against Anrakyr, their shocked crews may find themselves suddenly unable to control their vehicles' weapon systems. The traveler can project his consciousness into the machineries of lesser races and bend their crude spirits to his will, making heavy cannons and energy blasters swivel suddenly to new targeting coordinates before unleashing punishing salvos that blow the enemy's commanders, elite warriors, or accompanying armor assets to smoldering pieces. Nor does Anrakyr fight alone, of course. His legions are inveterate campaigners all, battle-scarred and deadly. At their heart march the Pyrian Eternals, Necron soldiery that hail from Anrakyr's own crown world, and who have fought at his side for hundreds of years. Few enemies can long withstand the assault of this rarefied cadre, of these Necrons who are as indomitable and resilient in close quarters as they are at range. What truly makes Anrakyr remarkable is not his skill in battle, however prodigious it might be. Instead, it is his ceaseless campaigning and the goals he seeks to achieve. Anrakyr fights not for the furtherance of his dynasty's greatness at the expense of all others, but rather for the greatness of the Necrons as a whole. Upon awakening from the great sleep, Anrakyr was fortunate enough to find himself hale and whole, with his faculties intact and his will undimmed. It did not take him long to grasp the true situation that the Necrons found themselves in. Scattered, lost, and awakening in increments while surrounded by hostile foes. Had the Silent King already declared his return, Anrakyr would undoubtedly have rallied to his banner as the uniter and savior of the Necron race. Robbed of such a figurehead, however, Anrakyr took it upon himself to become one. Thus he became the Traveler, leaving the rule of his crown world, Pyria, in others' hands, and taking the vast majority of his military might off into the stars. Anrakyr vowed to travel from one Necron world to the next, awakening those that still slumbered, and defending those that were under attack, until at last the Necron dynasties were all fully restored, and their race ruled the galaxy once again. His self-appointed mission has proven challenging, however. in ways that Anrakyr did not foresee. For one thing, the maps and charts he possesses are eons out of date, making it tremendously difficult to locate each world. Even when he does, Anrakyr often finds the cold dead ruin of tomb complexes already long plundered by lesser races. At such times, he descends with furious violence upon the transgressors, always hoping that word of such examples will spread and dissuade further trespassers. To his frustration, it never does. As Anrakyr's mission drags ever on, so his ranks are depleted. In order to maintain the momentum of his crusade, the traveler demands a tithe of military might from every Necron world he encounters, awakens, or rescues. Sometimes this is giving willingly enough, but on occasion he is accused of extortion and brigandry and must take his reinforcements by force. Such incidents sadden Anrakyr, for he cannot understand how all of his race do not share in his vision or zeal. However, he pushes on regardless, certain that when at last his quest is complete, all of his race will understand and applaud his vision.